live from the Mixer New York City studio at the flagship Microsoft store in Worlds, New York City. Now tonight we celebrate the launch of Age of Empires Definitive Edition. This fan-favorite real-time strategy game helped define the RTS genre, and we have the developers in-house who are going to give you the scoop on everything you need to know.
Plus, we have a tournament pitting dev against dev alongside some of our favorite Mixer partners. You definitely don't want to miss that. Also, be sure to stay active in the chat and give us your thoughts on Twitter using hashtags Age of Empires and AOEDE. We will be picking up some of our favorite comments and giving shout-outs during the broadcast.
Excellent. Now, remember, the game goes live at midnight local time. To snag it, head on over to the Microsoft Store in your taskbar or through your Cortana search area on your Windows 10 PC and search for Age of Empires, then just click pre-order, and at midnight, it'll be ready to download and play. Whoa-no-no! Indeed. Now, I'll be sitting down with two of the game's developers in just a moment, but before we do that, let's take a look at the making of the remastered Age of Empires.
The Definitive Edition started with looking at something that was already going on.
A small group of kind of passionate guys at the Age 2 community were working on this unofficial expansion for Age of Empires 2.
I actually remember the very first goal we had when we released the first mod was like, I want 20,000 downloads. That was my goal. And we hit that after 2 hours and one crashed website.
And I played that and I saw the love was there. It was so good as basically a mod that we ended up publishing them.
That was sort of the beginning of this revival. With Definitive Edition, we're going back to the very beginning.
Every Age of Empires game, except Age of Empires 1, has seen an extra boost given in the last few years. It needed a refreshment.
For us, it was a really easy call. We've got a group of super talented developers, and we've got this great game that people still love. What can we do to modernize it, to bring it into now?
The big piece was visuals, I would say. Everything had to be remade from scratch.
It's shockingly good on the outside, and the music is beautiful.
Microsoft went out to Prague, got a proper symphony orchestra, and they kind of redid several tracks with a full symphony orchestra, which is great.
It takes all those Age melodies that you remember and just blows the doors off of it.
We had to make a lot of gameplay changes as well, because the game, it saw such a big improvement from H1 to H2 that if you now go back, it really feels old.
We've addressed nearly all of the game's shortcomings.
So the series is now cohesive, which is a wonderful achievement.
We took what was already pretty incredible and just made it even better.
5 years ago, I was working in a restaurant and I was still playing Age of Empires like once in a while, and I started to dabble around in modding. I was like, okay, I have ideas, but I can't make graphics, I can't make sounds. Then we started sourcing from the community and said like, hey, want to help out a bit?
Forgotten Empires, this awesome group of Age fans, made these editions. They literally did on their own, called The Forgotten.
What's great about Age is you just have so much passion throughout the world that you can find where passion's kind of coupled with talent, and you just get some really special people.
The most rabid fans of the series getting together, a modding team, pooling the talent to form a full-fledged developer.
I think the passion of the fans making something that cohesive surprised me. I think the Forgotten Empire guys with their campaigns, they were just as good as the ensemble campaigns, and that's a testament to their dedication, and I think that's rare.
I think they took a calculated risk in partnering with us and allowing us to be stewards of the franchise.
Most important for us was there's a team that we can work with that have that same passion, that still believe in this product and want to make it new again.
When I started with Age of Empires series in 1996, I never in my wildest dreams thought that 21 years later I'd be working on the same game, the same code base.
It's a timeless franchise, and it has proven that already. This moment of time, the rebirth of Age of Empires 1 in this definitive edition for the 20th anniversary, I think it's just the beginning of a much longer journey that we're about to embark on.
welcome back, guys. I am, of course, Kate Yeager back again. Boy, every time I get on this screen, they clap. I'm delighted to be here. So I'm here, obviously, with Adam Isgreen from Microsoft Studios, and Burt Beekman, you are from Forgotten Empires, the devs behind the Definitive Edition. Correct. Excellent. So, Adam, actually, let's start with you. Why the Definitive Edition? Give us the big story.
Well, I mean, Age of Empires, right? 21 years now, right? Incredible franchise, kind of helped define real-time strategy games as we know them today. And through the years, Microsoft, we've brought back Age of Empires 2, we've done stuff with Age of Empires 3, but we never really touched Age of Empires 1. And we just felt it was the right time to go back and look at the original game that started this whole thing, the whole IP off, and like set the groundwork for everything that was going to come after it. And it was the right time to go back and touch everything, redo the game, look at it, and really make a definitive edition that would allow fans to experience the game in a modern way that they haven't been able to do. You can't even get this game on, you have to find the CDs.
I know.
Right? I mean, like,
Just for research, I went looking for it just to see what happens, and no.
Yeah, it's like, do you even have a drive anymore? Like, who has that, right?
What drive?
So it was the right time to go back and really grab the game and bring it up to a modernized standard that everyone could enjoy today.
So let's actually talk about that feeling of diving back. You had actually said to me in rehearsals earlier something about rose-colored glasses.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm always fond of saying, people remember the graphics and the look and the play of Age of Empires from when they played it. And for a lot of us, that was when the game, well, a lot of us, I'm old, okay? So that was when the game originally released. But there's so many people that experienced it that way, and to them, oh my God, the graphics were incredible and the music was amazing, right? Because that's what we had at the time. And when we took a look at the, when Burt and team and everyone, when we took a look at the original, we're like, okay, wow, I think we need to bring this up too. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to find the rose-colored glasses version that everyone had in their head. And that's the version of Age of Empires that we wanted to create for everyone that we've done today.
Wow. Now, we'll get to Burt in just a second because I got so many questions. But let's stick with Adam here for a minute and tell me, what has the experience, like, what has the fan reaction been at this point?
Well, it's so wonderful to work on a series that all you get every time you go out and you talk to fans, it's all about, oh my God, I played this game with my dad. I played this game with my siblings. I had this great memory about learning something from history in it. And there's just these wonderful sentiments and feelings around Age of Empires because I think it's such a broad game. There's different ways you can win. There's different ways you can play. There are all these cool civilizations. And it just allowed people to really define experiences around the game in a way that made it more than just a game and made it part of their lives. And it's so wonderful to go out and talk to people about Age of Empires and get those stories from people, and it's just, it's been a wonderful experience going back and touching it and having that.
It's sort of like everybody has an Age of Empires story, right?
Yeah, everyone pretty much does, right? I mean, even if it's from a meme from Wololo or something like that to, like some story about, oh, we got the history a little wrong and I told this in class, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, we fixed that, yeah. But no, it's been great, like having those experiences, even, going to Gamescom recently, you and I were both there,
yep.
And, I don't speak German, but there were people that, even in broken English, were trying to tell me how much they enjoyed the game, and they just wanted to get it out. And I think that was such a wonderful thing to see from fans all over the world.
So let's talk, we were obviously talking about Age Definitive Edition tonight,
yes.
But tell me some of the goals of the entire Age of Empires franchise, because this is but the beginning.
Yes, this is just the beginning. As we've said at Gamescom, we are not only doing Age of Empires 1 DE, but we're also doing 2 and 3, and of course we're working on 4. And I think the real thing that we want to say here, and the reason we've taken such care with the definitive edition of Age 1, is that we're setting the groundwork for kind of what we want to go forward in the DE versions and into the future. That, we really respect this franchise. We absolutely love the opportunity not only to bring these games back, but to take it into the future. And we want to show you how much we actually care about this series. And so we're starting with DE1, with all the wonderful kind of features and updates we've done to it, to again, really provide an amazing game and say like, hey, you know what? We love Age of Empires. And hopefully all of you guys do too.
Well, the love can be evident in some of the gameplay that you're looking at right now. Some of our panelists, actually, it's Will over there doing a smashing job. And Burt, we're going to talk, because you obviously came from the Forgotten Empires realm. The devs in charge of basically remastering this entire fantastic game. Let's talk some of the highlights. What are fans going to be excited for that you guys have worked on specifically? I know 4K is obviously one of the headlines.
That is the first thing everybody's going to be seeing if they open up the game. Like, everything is so shiny. Basically so nice, so It's what Adam said earlier. We had to build rose-colored glasses. Everybody has like the memory of a villager walking. But in reality, it was just like a heap of pixels, like 16 pixels high, something like that. And now we had to make that yoinks. Yeah,
A heap of pixels.
Exactly.
A heap of
We
pixels
had
is
to
nice.
fill in all the details that people remembered and actually turn it into an actual model.
Like 8 frames of animation was
We
that?
had
Yeah.
8 frames of animation and
Right.
8 angles of like rotating your
Right.
units. If you had a guy trying to change his direction, it's like
Yeah.
massive jump all of a sudden, and now it goes very smoothly. He can swing his sword. He actually looks like a sword. It's not 3 pixels anymore. All those nice things. Like people see that right away, and it looks great. I'm really happy with how it turned out. We actually had a lot of people asking, like, "Hey, is this a 3D game?" And it's still the good old 3D engine.
Yeah.
2D sprites, but because the quality is so much higher than the original, it's kind of aching to a 3D look, even though it isn't.
Yeah.
It's a good old original engine.
Well, let's talk about the Rise of Rome expansion.
That is included into the definitive edition. So the original Age of Empires and Rise of Rome, with all the campaigns that came with it, the new civilizations, of course, that came with it. That's all included in the definitive edition. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's talk. There's also, I see 16 campaigns, 10 civilizations. Did I get those mixed up?
The other way around, yes.
16 civilizations, 10 campaigns. Can you give us a little nugget of knowledge about those?
Okay, so it's the original civilizations from the original game, but one of the things that we did was rebalancing them. So the original game was very, very crazy. You could have a catapult that was completely overpowered and would smash a complete army of the enemies. You can still kind of do that, but it's slightly more balanced. Slightly more balanced. And then for the campaigns, we have 10 campaigns from the original Age of Empires, then from Rise of Rome. And there was also like a demo campaign that came with your cereal when you were a kid. And we remade that one as well. And that's also in definitive edition.
Last thing for this before we go over to some of the gameplay here, which is multiplayer mode.
Yes, good old multiplayer.
Good old
It was
multiplayer.
actually funny, like when we got the CD back and we went to the multiplayer menu, it said something like serial connection and parallel connection. I was like, how do you connect that? Like, how do I
Wow.
play a game here? And so now it all goes through Xbox Live. You can just get the game and jump into multiplayer, basically.
And we also, just because this is a PC RTS, let's not forget we also have LAN play, which we super support, right? We're really looking forward to seeing how people jump into the game and play it and what they think of the new balance and the meta.
Now, we are going to hear from you guys a little bit later within the tournament itself, and I know that everybody's very, 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 what's the right word? Scared to play you, Bert. No big deal.
There should be.
Anyway, so tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here that Will has already done for us, and any of the things that obviously Age fans from way back are going to know about the gardens, the planting, and how you couldn't get through them before. But what are we talking about this time?
So what we're seeing here is Will is basically flattening a city with a lot of catapults here. One of the nice things actually also from the graphic side is that now if you destroy a building, it actually nicely crumbles down. So he's now targeting that tower and it's going to go down at any minute now, I think. And there we go.
Gutsy.
It's a nice little animation. It used to go like poof, gone, and now everything crumbles down. It's also actually funny if you play, like now if I attack a city of another player, sometimes I think, I just want to kill that building because it looks nice if it goes down. So, not very
vengeance.
tactical, but just pretty to look at.
Excellent. And I think at some point here we'll be able to see some of the water specifically, and you can tell us a little bit about that. Look at that.
There we go.
Holy cow.
Yeah, if you remember the original water in the game, it was a blue plane, basically one color blue, one solid color blue, with like
Little
little
white dots.
that were, the animation. And now we have this, which I can't even begin how to describe. It's beautiful. You have the reflection of the boats, you have the waves crashing on the shores. So a lot of work went into making that a pretty thing.
Well, and it is very obviously a pretty thing. So actually, we've got a question from a Twitter user, TLitD31. Awesome. Who asked, what were some of the inspirations for the achievements added to the game, Adam?
Oh, well, I'm a big fan of achievements that are not only fun, but earnable. And so we went in and really wanted to give players a nice breadth of achievements that they could use to find new ways to play the game. That's one thing that we always do when we make the achievements, is so people can read them and be like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, how do I do that? I'm going to go do that. And I think that we've provided this great, swath of them. There's everything from campaign achievements to multiplayer achievements. But I think there's this wonderful balance in there, and it was a back and forth with the team, really, to come across all the ones we could do. We had some pretty crazy ideas for ones originally that we would like to do A, B, C, then this. And all of us were like, no, we can't actually pull that off. But so we had to go back we had to rein in our aspirations a little bit. But it's always the case when you're making achievements. But yeah.
Well, I was going to say, so let's not, you had mentioned it earlier, Adam. This is a Definitive Edition is 20 years in the making, basically, because at 21 now is how
21,
old Age
right?
is.
Yeah, 21.
I mean, what is that like in terms of both being a fan of it at the get-go all the way seeing it through this beautiful remastering? That's got to be out of this world.
It's just super exciting, right? I mean, you have a franchise that stood the test of time, and I think it's proven itself with having, being super accessible. History is a great topic to do an RTS game around. Everyone understands what a sword is, what a club is. Oh, I get it. Oh, I got the wheel. I get how important that is. That's awesome. The ways you can win, because there's multiple ways you can go about playing this game, right? You don't have to just run out and kill someone. You can do an insane APM game, which I know Bert could totally do and murder all of us. No, you were totally being.
Yeah, that was going to say.
But there's multiple ways to win, right? You can wall yourself in, you can build a wonder, you can go after relics. And I think that those are the kind of things that open the game up to a broader audience. And it's just so awesome to see that those ideas were so solid and successful. They've lasted all this time.
So, Bert, I know we saw you in the documentary talking a little bit about what you were doing right before you started on the Definitive Edition. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. We have a bit of a history with Age of Empires, I would say. So Forgotten Empires basically started out as a modding team. We started modding on Age of Empires 2 originally, and then we made a mod that got pretty popular, like $1 million or something. Our site completely melted on the launch day.
Well done. Good job.
Yeah, it was nice. Hectic, stressful evening, but okay. And then Microsoft came along and said, like, hey, that looks quite good. Like, let's make that an official expansion. And we made a few more, and then now made Age of Empires 1 Definitive Edition. So.
What's it sort of like? I mean, it feels like there's this little Cinderella quality to this. Like one day you're working at an Italian restaurant, the next day you're up here under the lights in front of this studio audience of people who are fans of Age of Empires. Am I wrong? Right there.
That almost.
What's that? I love it. What's that like? Tell me. I mean, like Adam's beaming from ear to ear. You had this great experience.
It has been quite an interesting journey, not just for me, but for the whole team. Like everybody started out as hobbyists, basically, and now we're doing it for real.
We got actually another a question from Mixer. This is the user Cash, cool name, by the way. And they ask, is the maximum unit count increased much?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So the original game had 50, and then in the Rise of Rome expansion, that came to 75, and now you can go to 250.
250?
So that's a lot of units, yes.
You heard it here first.
Proper battles, and you can kill them all with one catapult shot still if you really want to.
So when you talk to people about the game, about your love of it and everything, what's the thing that just like the headlines for you? I mean, obviously 4K is easy to say, and we actually have a beautiful vignette about the soundtrack that I think is really important to go into. But what do you guys talk about when you say the differentiators between Definitive Edition and other RTSs out there right now?
For me, it's the feel of Age, right? Age has a certain pacing and a flow to it that I think is very unique to Age of Empires. It was around in days when there was no such thing as APM. We didn't call it that. There was, what? Why are you clicking so fast? Like, what's that about? Again, the brilliant thing about Age is you can play it that way, but you don't have to play it that way. And that's the thing I love, is that it's just the diversity and the depth of the play.
Absolutely. Like, the ways you can play a game, you can sit there, build a city for 5 hours and have fun. Or you can try to rush your opponent in 10 minutes. And they're completely different play styles, but it's all Age of Empires. Yeah. So.
We actually have another Mixer question from Irrelevant Native. Wait, is that right? Am I reading things? I don't know. They asked, where were you when you got the call to create the Definitive Edition? Bert, I think it's, were you at the Italian restaurant at the time, or where were you? And what was that moment like?
Goodness me, I don't know where that was actually. That's a very good question. I think we were still working on H2, and then we heard the plan for the Definitive Edition, so like, that's nice. That's very nice.
That works.
That's nice.
Now, are you and your team going to continue on through the whole Definitive Edition series here?
We hope to be on board for quite a bit, yes.
There it is. Excellent. Well, I gotta say thank you so much for chatting with me and looking at the gameplay. It's not hard to see why you guys are both beaming from ear to ear right now. And now you're actually gonna pair up with some of our Mixer partners in a mini tournament to show off more of Age of Empires Definitive Edition. Now, while we're getting set for that, take a look at the history of Age of Empires.
Ensemble's beating heart was passion for games, and it fed into everything they did.
Age of Empires had this blend of action and sort of an abstract beauty.
The sun was always shining in Age of Empires games. It was inviting.
It was very good gameplay, and that just holds up.
It's so iconic that it's really stood up the test of time.
I was just out of college, or just out of quitting college. Wanted to get into programming, so first started as a freelancer, and then that led to starting Ensemble Corporation with John Bookscott.
It was the two of us initially, and we quickly had a few more people growing that company. And it was really focused on business software, did a lot of stuff with banks, your typical business stuff. But even in that venue, Tony, he was always a outside-the-box thinker, super creative at heart.
The company was largely successful. It grew slowly over time, and there were a number of people involved in the company, maybe 30 or 40 by the time we talked about starting a game company.
From the time I was a Dungeons & Dragons player in junior high school, I'd always wanted to start a game company. I thought it was a board gaming company, and then I thought it was a computer game company, so that was always on my mind.
I think Tony really only did the business stuff so we could get to the game.
We had absolutely no idea how to go about doing it.
When I was in junior high, I joined a gaming club called HSS, Historical Simulation Society. Bruce was there too.
I remember teaching them how to play some games, and they told me later that they thought I was one of the guys in the club that they looked up to.
I kept track of him, thinking one day I'll start a game company. He had been the co-designer of Sid Meier's Civilization and worked with Sid Meier's.
15 years later or so, Tony called me up actually and said he asked me about the process of making computer games.
Our theory is we were going to get all gamers to the company and see if we can build the greatest game the world had ever seen. That was our idea.
There was no game idea on the books when we started. The first idea that I recall was like the television show Lost, where people are stranded on an island and they have to get their materials together to get off.
The team at Ensemble definitely was taking influence of seeing how RTS was growing and how there were other RTS games out there that maybe weren't historically set.
I wanted randomly generated maps. I wanted the game to be different every time you played. And we wanted to have a non-cheating AI that played like a real human being.
Warcraft 1 really focused our direction.
We looked at Command & Conquer and Warcraft and Civilization, and we made a list of what those games were doing really well. Why were they successful? What was important about those games? We have to be as good as them in what they're doing really well. And what they're not doing is our opportunities. That's where we're going to make our game different.
I think the topic is the most important decision you have to make when you're doing any game.
My real passion was history. I read a lot of historical fiction, and so when Age came around, for me, it was this perfect melding of the kinds of games that I like to play, real-time strategy games, with this history that I loved.
Turns out there was an awful lot of people who liked the historical aspects. I know I was asked once by Bill Gates. We had to make a presentation to Bill Gates, and he says, man, we should be marketing this as an educational thing. And I said, no, I don't think so. I mean, there's some education that might happen, but it's not going to happen until people are having fun. So we got to entertain them first, and if they learn something, then that's great. And then the idea came along, why don't we take the gameplay from Warcraft and Command & Conquer, this real-time strategy gameplay, and merge it with the historical and economic aspects of Civilization that I had helped build a few years earlier.
We got an early version of Age of Empires up and running, and all you could do is chop trees at the time, but it looked kind of like Age of Empires.
So Tony calls up Microsoft, and he gets a guy on the phone named Ed Ventura, and he goes, you got to come down and see our demo.
So I had a product manager, Ed Ventura, who was out looking at different developers and different games that we could potentially sign. And he told me about Age of Empires and told me to come to Dallas and visit the team. It was actually pretty amazing because what we saw in this very, very limited demo was the heart of a lot of what we loved about Age. It looked gorgeous. It looked like a world you wanted to spend more time in. And the little mechanics that they had implemented were fantastic. And so that was almost an insta sign.
and welcome back to the Age of Empires Definitive Edition launch. I am Kate Yeager, and we are live at the Mixer New York City studio at the flagship Microsoft Store in New York City, obviously. I've been following along with what you've had to say on Mixer and on Twitter, and here are some of my faves. Now, over in Mixer chat, user Silverlink, great name again, said, Age of Empires was my youth. Still have Age Gold Edition on CD. Oh, that is a throwback. It was the first game I bought as a child. I love that. And user Haley DeBear said, this is dope. I'm just giving that the voice I think it deserves. And Ryman, I'm gonna say, said, glad you guys made a definitive edition of the original. Never thought I'd see the day. Obviously, we're doing some great things here over on Mixer. Now onto Twitter, user Blood Titan TV. Said, seeing all the visual changes in the definitive edition is insane. I can agree 1,000%. Also on Twitter, user Max3344 is looking forward to our tournament, saying, good luck to my favorite friend CS188 and to all the other participants as well. CS188 got a little shout out. Remember, use the hashtag Age of Empires and hashtag AOEDE. Totally easy to say, to make sure you see comments on Twitter. And now we're about to start our tournament, and here is how it's all gonna go down. We've brought in our favorite Mixer partners, who will each be paired with one of the game developers. These duos will battle in 2 semifinal matches. The winning teams will then face off against each other for guts and glory, and for these amazing helmets. Oh yeah, that's right. Now over to Josh Saley at the Shoutcaster desk to get things started. Josh, I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name.
No worries, thank you, Kate. Now, I don't know about you, but I am ready to see some awesome competition. I am here with Jennifer Godwin and Joe Holmes from the Age of Empires community team to give their commentary on the gameplay we are about to see. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So, like you said, we are on the community team for Age of Empires. We're the community managers, which basically means that every time you guys reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook or our forums, it's us. You're talking to us. So, hi, guys.
Yeah, it's great to see you back in internet land. Now, Team 1 for our first match will be Will McCahill and Ice Rocker versus Team 2 made up of Bert Beekman and Chaos Mole. Jennifer and Joe, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win?
Oh, geez, that's a tough call. Will is definitely our ringer at Microsoft Studios. He's done a couple of sort of infamous 5v1s and come out on top more than once.
Which is crazy.
That said, I mean, you guys just saw Bert talk about how far back he goes with the Age of Empires. He lives and breathes the game, so he's definitely
someone to contend with.
Thank you, a contender as well. Ice Rocker and Chaos Mole, though, are also sort of wild cards. We're not sure exactly how they're going to affect the outcome here. As well, Bert, before the match, told me, being a developer, he wanted to make sure that he wanted to say that everything is perfectly balanced, which means he went random. So he didn't pick his favorites, Civ. He just picked whatever he got. So let's actually check in here. It looks like he got Carthaginian.
Oh, nice.
Which is going to be which is great, but it has a bit of a later game advantage as opposed to Will, who I think is playing Shang. I'd have to take a look there. So Bert's advantage is that his academy units, his big, expensive, slow infantry units are going to be a lot cheaper. They're going to be stronger, and Will's folks who are going to be Shang. Yep, he is Shang. Yep. So he's going to have a much earlier game advantage, meaning usually a villager costs 50 food to make, and villagers are just the most important unit in the game. Will's villagers cost 40 food to make, which means he's going to get more villagers faster. He's going to be able to boom his economy. He's going to age up his civilization a lot faster, and he could use that to gain an early game advantage against Bert and his folks. Now, you can also see on the mini-maps here, we've turned on, this is what Will is seeing right now, we've turned on shared exploration. Which is a new feature for Age of Empires Definitive Edition. It wasn't available in the original version. And so Will can actually see what his teammate is seeing. So it gives a little bit, that's always something that has been in the game. It gives a little bit more of like a feeling of camaraderie. But usually in the old game, you could only do that by researching a technology in the Bronze Age. You know, in some games, you barely even get to the Bronze Age before they're over. So
Because Will comes in and murders you. Really,
exactly.
That's what happens.
Yeah, especially if Will's playing against us. But here we added the option. You know, it's not mandatory. It's not the only way the game works, but we added the option in case you want to just get that exploration going a little bit faster.
One of the updates that we did to kind of bring Age of Empires Definitive Edition into the more modern RTS genre without making it feel like a completely different game. Because you know we weren't trying to make Age of Empires 4 with this Definitive Edition. We were trying to remake Age of Empires 1 in a way that felt the way you remembered it.
Like coming back home.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, a lot of people remember being able to do that from the beginning, and maybe they weren't able to before, but now they can. So that's always fun.
Absolutely. So let's head over to see what some of our Mixer partners are doing. Let's check in with Chaos Mole, who is sort of scouting out over there.
He's got the Yamato. That's going to be fun.
Yep. So he's got the Yamato going. He's got a lot of people on food, a lot of people on wood, and they're just moving.
Now, you mentioned that Bert has a slower resource production. Now, is it up to Chaos Mole to go even faster for him to pick up the pace?
Definitely not a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bert's he doesn't have a disadvantage there. His civilization really hits its own once you hit the Bronze Age. So he wants to get up to that new age as soon as possible. One of the options that his teammate would have are to actually donate some of his extra resources. The Yamato villagers are actually they also have a slight advantage in that they walk 10% faster. So one of the main things in building your economy is efficiency. And so the Yamato, it's a little bit easier, just like the Shang, it's a little bit easier to get that economy going because there's just a little bit more efficiency in that villager backbone to your economy.
The time it takes them to take that resource that they've just gathered and take it to your storage pit is just shaved off that little bit. And when you're great at Age of Empires, that little bit can do a ton for you.
And we saw just now that Bert has a dock going there, and you see those beautiful water graphics.
So beautiful.
Yeah, so it's
I was just so distracted by how pretty it was.
I know. Oh my goodness. So that's actually a really good. We're playing on a Mediterranean map, which means there's a big ocean in the middle and rivers sort of dividing different areas. But getting a dock going early is one of the ways that you can really boost your economy because the only place you can build villagers is at the town centers. Mm-hmm. So that's always going to be active, pumping out villagers if you're running at maximum efficiency. Whereas you can almost cheat a little bit by having your dock running as well and getting those boats going because they'll start gathering fish for you. So they're almost doing the same job that the villagers are doing, but you get to have two buildings making gathering units instead of one.
And the more food you have from those fishies, the more villagers that you can make and the more other resources you can gather, which again is kind of the most important thing to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the basis for everything. Oh my God, Bert's already aging up. This is crazy.
Yep.
Who else is aging up? Oh, okay. Will's already in the Tool Age. I just didn't notice. Chaos Mole is also heading into the Tool Age. This is crazy, guys. You guys are going so fast.
And we've got Will. If you look at Will's mini-map here, you can see that he's sent a scout. You can see that tendril. He's looking for the other guys. And I think if he goes all the way over to this scout, he may have found them. And in fact, I don't even see a little dot there, so he may have found them and then gotten his scout killed. I missed what was going on over there, but I think he's figured out where the enemy is, which is one of the most important things. Having map awareness will win and lose you the game.
Yes.
So you definitely want to scout early, scout often. And now that he's in the Tool Age, one of his options would be to leverage that early advantage as the Shang and try and rush in with some of those axemen to send in some axemen, buff up his units, and try to cripple his opponent's economy by getting rid of some of those villagers. And if you fall behind in the villager race, especially if you're against the Shang, who can bounce back much more easily,
very quickly,
it's pretty devastating. However,
really
the map position in this particular game, they're all the way across across the map. I don't think that
Got
Will.
some water in between them. Yeah.
I think Will's probably figured out that he's not going to really do well on sending Axemen in, because by the time his Axemen walk all the way across the map, the other guys are going to be in the Bronze Age, and they're going to be up against Sentry Towers and Medium Walls. So they don't want to deal with that.
Looks like Ice Rocker is aging up to the Tool Age, and Bert is already heading into the Bronze Age. This is crazy.
All right, so Bert is the first one to click up to the Bronze Age, which again, that's where he's going to start shining, because he's got those cheaper Academy units as the Carthaginians, and he's going to be able to send some pretty nasty punishment Will's way.
Get some serious battles going on.
Though again...
Oh, and Will is heading up to the Bronze Age too. I think you might have heard us talking.
No, I think they've got their
Actually,
ears.
they do have those super soundproof headphones, so you're right. He just did that because, he's good at the game.
Yeah, wait, Will
Shocking.
Will, no, he didn't. I don't think he can hear us. I don't think he can hear us. All right.
Oh my God. Look at the looks of concentration on their faces. They're just like, no, I have to win.
Well, they've got
I gotta get those helmets.
They've got those helmets on the line. Yeah, it's just
if I had
it's
a
just
chance
fun
to
and
win
games,
those
but not
helmets, I'd
anymore.
be doing the same thing. Really.
Exactly.
And it's like, you're on the line. If Will versus Bert, it's basically like, how good are you at this
Microsoft
game?
versus Forgotten Empires.
Yeah.
Like, who's actually the best?
Exactly.
Right. So
now, one thing we talked about earlier was the idle village indicator. You want to go on a little bit about that?
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Very important.
Yeah, do you want to take this?
Sure. You've been talking enough, I suppose.
Somebody wants to like stopwatch, get a timer going. Ding,
yeah,
test clock.
so the idle villagers, obviously very important. If you've got villagers who are just standing around, that means that you basically just wasted food on them. They need to be getting out there and doing things for you. And in the original game, you could always hit the idle villager button. You'd be taken to any idle villagers, and you would be able to then tell them what to do. Stop being lazy.
Sorry to jump in there, but in the original game, there was no idle villager button. That's the point.
There wasn't an idle villager indicator on the screen,
Okay.
so you didn't always know. It looks like Will obviously Ice Rocker has 0 idle villagers. Good job, Ice Rocker. She's getting all them people to work. But there is an indicator now on the screen, and you can see at all times if your villagers are being lazy and they need to go start working for you.
Absolutely. In addition to which, there are a lot of other just quality of life improvements. I mean, you mentioned the idle villager indicator. There's also this, what we've been seeing this the whole time, but this the tool age thing at the top, letting you know not only what age you're in, but it'll flash when you are ready to age up to the next stage. So that lets you know how to sort of invest your resources, because one of the things you've got to do is stockpile resources as much as you can, as quickly as you can, to get up to that age, because
Build
that's
the
where
right
you
buildings,
get all of those advantages.
get all that stuff ready.
So you don't want to waste any time, and if you're not watching your resources, your resource count, and figuring out what you need to be doing, you might not realize that you've had enough stuff to get up to the Bronze Age
Personally,
for a couple of minutes.
it's very helpful because I get so distracted building my beautiful little village and like placing my farms all perfectly that I'm like, oh, I can age up. I should do that. I age up, and I should get my military going, and I should probably do anything that's not just building this beautiful little village.
And it looks like we've got, I think I saw one of Bert's first Academy units actually sort of wandering across the map there. So I think he's going to start doing some damage
on people over here.
before too long. Yeah, he's got people in his academy. He's got that hoplite going. That's one of his cheaper units. So he's going to be able to leverage his. He didn't get
Bunch of
harassed
war
early on,
guns.
which is something that you really want to do to those Carthaginians and delay them. But he was actually the
Harass
first one
those
to Bronze Age.
Carthaginians.
Yes, it really is important.
We talked a little bit about some of the things, but guys, there are so
looks like he's
many.
getting picked on, actually. Who was that in his base?
I missed it.
Oh, wait, no,
I missed
never
it.
mind. He was picking on someone else. He's yellow. Figured it out. We figured it out. We're good at casting here.
There are so many things that have been invented in the RTS genre since this came out almost 21 years ago.
Yeah.
Things like attack move, being able to tell your folks like go here, but attack
Waypoints.
anything on the way. Waypoints, yes. Tell your scout like, hey, scout here, and then scout over here,
And then go this
don't
way and
worry
this
about it
way,
for a
yeah.
while. There's just so
A
many
left click
things.
and a right click.
Actually, though, right-clicking to reseed your farms is a new thing that we've got in this game, which is ridiculously helpful. Instead of having to, when your farm gets exhausted, delete it and then go build another one. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's very time-consuming. And so now now you can just go right-click and it is done, which is so helpful. Kind of a nice in-the-middle point between the original Age of Empires and Age of Empires 2, where obviously you can have your mill reseed for you. It's a good middle ground here.
Okay, so now we're seeing Bert versus
boy.
Will. We've got Chariot Archers versus those Hoplites. And those
boy.
Chariot Archers are going to be just faster. Those Hoplites are slow. They are strong, but they are so slow.
Yeah.
Bert is going to need to change his strategy
Looks like
to
he's
get up
heading
against
back
those.
to start making some new people.
So he's got a government center going, which means he's going to be able to build some more town centers. And like we mentioned, getting that town center out.
Oh, now he's being attacked by lions. Well, that's not.
Oh, well, that's not even. Yeah.
So it's like my Wednesday.
I think Will paid those lions off. Oh man.
Oh boy.
So now he's taking out those lions, and he's gonna probably do a little counterattack with these Chariot Archers. He did a really good job of kiting those hoplites, and those hoplites really were sitting ducks at that point. I mean, they can chase down those Chariot Archers with no problem. So the Chariot Archers are coming up against Bert's ships, though, which backed up by those hoplites might mean that Will needs
Might
to
be a little bit of a problem. Yeah.
back off.
I'd like
off
to
a
see
little
what he does to come back in the face of those war galleys.
So
those are scary.
One of the things Bert just did that, some Age of Empires, we have a lot of Age of Empires 2 people watching, and people have said, it's different. That you've been used to Age of Empires 2 for so long. Like we were mentioning earlier in the stream, Age of Empires 1 isn't even available in most places under most circumstances. So
unless you just have that old computer with that old CD slot.
So some of the things that are a little bit different, we saw at the beginning of the game that you don't start with a scout like you would normally. So they're not things that are worse. They're just like it's a slightly different feel. So you don't start with a scout. Your houses only hold 4 people instead of 5. As well, you need to research your upgrades. This is something that a lot of first-time players sort of forget about. You need to research your upgrades at your places where you drop off your resources. Your granary is where you learn how to build walls and how to build towers, and your storage pit where you drop off your fish and your and your wood and things like that, your gold. That's where you go to actually research upgrades for your cavalry and your archers and things like that. So you really need to use your whole civilization. And you can't just let one part of it go because you really need to upgrade everything.
Yeah, no, it's totally true.
If Chaos Mole or Ice Rocker were to lose early on, do you think Will or Bert could easily or could win a 2v1?
I think either of them, it's definitely in their capacity to win a 2v1.
I mean, like we were saying, Will has won a couple 5v1s in our office, but that might just be, kind of a bad look at the rest of us there.
Yep, exactly. So Ice Rocker as the Romans, she's doing pretty well up here. It looks like she hasn't had a whole lot of military engagement to deal with, which is nice. As the Romans, she's got cheaper buildings just in general.
And way cheaper towers, which are very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You just saw that villager solo a lion, which is
pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. That's one of the things that is also different about Age 1. Your villagers are a little bit tougher, a little bit sturdier.
There's no loom in this one, so you gotta kind of start them out a little tougher, a little burlier.
Something that we haven't seen go down are walls at all.
I was going to mention that defense. Where's the defense right now?
Well, we saw. I think it was Ice Rocker had a couple of towers down, and Will actually, as Shang, would have. He's going very aggressive, I think, and that's why we're not seeing a lot.
Yes.
But as Shang, if he were in a spot that he felt like he needed to wall, he would be in a really good position because those walls are almost double the health of anybody else in the game. So he'd have some great walls, but he's chosen to try and, this is what we were talking about earlier, just raid his opponent's economy, stop them from getting gold. He's forcing Chaos Mole to run his villagers away and stop them from.
And they are trying to murder those chariot archers, though. It's working actually pretty well with those archers.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, and he's got some archers there. He's got a little bit of military there that he can use to back up. So his villagers are gonna get away. But this is one of the little micro things of the game. Even if you don't kill your opponent's villagers, he had to send them away from where they're working. So that's all of that time is basically time. He's now got 14 idle villagers who just aren't doing their jobs. So he's getting them going. He's starting a new thing. And Will decided on to pull back. I think it's because he saw that army of Bert's hoplites just swimming
you know
on
what?
in there. Yeah.
I would also retreat from that.
Yeah.
I really would.
Yeah, he saw
Just
those.
take it, I'm out, just
hoplites
take it.
You know what? That corner of my village, it's yours now. I'm just gonna go over here.
Just don't take my farm.
Don't take my farm. Don't walk on my farm. So
Don't
he's
walk
got-
on my farm.
So that's another town center he's got over there. It's over by the trees, so that his villagers don't have to walk very far to chop wood. And he's got 2 more farms going down right there. Now, in the original, you used to be able to. I think Kate mentioned this earlier. You used to be able to not walk over farms, so people would put down rows of farms as walls.
A very effective wall and food ratio there.
Yeah, so that's one of the improvements that people made that Forgotten Empires made because it just made more sense.
Right.
this
Some
way.
people are sad about it. They're like, oh, I love my farm walls, but weirdly, it makes more sense now that you can actually walk over farmland because turns out that's a thing that happens in real life.
And we're heading to Chaos Mole, who has he has a big army. I think I saw cavalry right there before he jumped away. He's got a big army going south, and he's trying to get some research going, upgrade some of his units. As his army heads to the south, they are crossing the isthmus. If he doesn't focus there soon, he's going to run into Will. So I want to see what's happening.
I think him and Bert might be kind of double teaming Will here. It looks like they're kind of
think you
trying
almost
to
need
focus
to.
them down a little bit, which
Well,
is, yes, a very good idea.
That's great because Will's up in Bert's business up there, dealing with. Oh, look at all those cavalry
boy.
archers.
Oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
So this is a great play by Chaos Mole because he knows that
Will's attacking. Will's a little bit
Will's
distracted
on
right
on the
now.
attack. But he's saying, hey Bert,
You deal with that.
deal with
Just
it.
I'm
distract
just
him
going to be
long
over
enough.
here, and I'm going to wreck his shop a little bit.
You're doing great. You're doing great. I'll
Go
be
get
over
him,
here.
buddy.
I'll be over here. Yeah.
Oh, it does look like he's doing some damage over
absolutely.
on Chaos Mole. He is just tearing through some villagers.
Absolutely.
Although Will's got the micro down, and he is fighting back with some chariot archers down there too.
And
so.
Ice Rocker also had some units in Bert's base, so Bert is not doing great, but it looks like Will wisely left some chariot archers behind to be able to defend. Chariot archers are one of the favored strategies. Get up to the Bronze Age, build a bunch of chariot archers because they're cheap and they're very, very strong for how much they cost.
And fast and ranged units, they're just kind of great all around.
Oh, yeah. But look at this. We've got so many
goodness.
cavalry, and those cavalry are going to chase down so many of Will's villagers. So he's getting a little bit. He's getting a lot of value out of these cavalry right now. But those chariot archers are also going to deal a bunch of damage.
That I think is one of the biggest differences between Age of Empires 1 and Age of Empires 2 is not being able to garrison. There is not just a button you can click to make all of your villagers run inside, which again is kind of a big deal because it means that there's no button you can click to make them go back outside and start working once all the bad guys have gone away.
Yeah, you have to get back. You send them away, then you have to get back to them
And figure out how many you had on each resource. It's so much like thinking and strategy that goes into just your resources. It's crazy.
And that's why that idle villager hotkey is has
so
been
important.
just super important in the indicator up there because you might defend against an attack and then go off and do something else and just
And you're
forget
like, oh
that
wait, I
you
left like 12
moved
people back
12
there.
people, yeah, and that's a lot
Actually,
of
that
resources
looks like
that
that's
you need
what
to.
Bert's doing right now. He's just going around from idle villager to idle villager and making them get back to work.
Yeah, get back to work. He's doing it. I mean, in terms of score, he's still at the top. So Bert's not in a bad position, and Will's in third. Both Bert and Chaos Mole are doing pretty well. They're doing a good job of keeping the pressure up, even while Will has been harassing them
Attacking them a
basically
little bit,
constantly
yeah.
since he hit Bronze Age. And we just saw Bert putting up some walls, which means that Will is either going to have to go through those walls or build transport ships to get around. And we haven't seen a lot of naval battles. It's mostly been.
We have. I was really expecting more on this big old ocean.
Yeah, we see Bert has just a ton of ships going back and forth, but they're mostly trade ships, or he's sending them to defend the actual land passages on the map. He's not actually. They're not actually really battling for control of the
ocean.
resources in the
It's just-
ocean.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
is there's just tons of food and fish out there, and you need to keep on getting food to feed your armies. You know,
Run, villagers,
army marches on its
run.
stomach. That's as true in Age of Empires as it is in any war.
It really, really is, and it's pay.
Absolutely. Okay, and so we see Bert's Navy coming up here. They're gonna take some hits
Getting
from
on
this
Ice
tower.
Rocker a little bit here, huh?
Yeah, they're gonna
When did Bert
defeat
age
this
up?
Roman Navy.
I did not even notice that. Bert's in the Iron Age now.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And it looks like Will's getting there. Everybody else is getting there. They're all in Bronze Age still, but.
Do you think Bert has now a big advantage because he's already in the Iron Age?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. There's a lot of new things to do in the Iron Age, obviously, but
Yeah, so being in the age itself doesn't do anything for you, but it does give you access at all of the buildings you already have. It gives you access to a ton of new upgrades, technologies, things that your opponents can't do if they're not in the Iron Age. So your units are gonna be stronger, they're gonna be faster, and they're gonna do more damage. So yes, it's a huge advantage to be in the Iron Age, but that said, if you go up before you're really ready, you might find yourself in the Iron Age and
lacking resources,
and not have the resources to do the
yeah.
upgrades that you did to get to the Iron Age, and maybe you'd rather have 20 more chariot archers instead if somebody's in your base. So yeah, depending on if you're defending
I
or
think
if you're going
since-
hyper aggressive.
Yeah, Bert was going pretty aggressive and kind of out there doing other things. So he's probably got the time and energy back at home to get all that stuff going on. He's got just like a
Absolutely.
hidden town center in the woods over there.
Yeah, so let's check in with Chaos Mole right now because we're seeing that Will only has like 200 food. So he's actually hurting for food. Chaos Mole has over 4,000 food, so he could be.
He needs to be trading, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, he could be trading. He could be sending some of that food over to Bert. There are commands in the game that let you sort of taunt. Oh, he's going for that helmet. That was a great shot.
That was a
very well,
fantastic
nicely
shot.
done.
I know we're supposed to cast the game, but I got to cast this camera work for a second. That was tough.
So yeah, he could send some of that food to Bert, even out the team's economy.
Yeah.
It does cost. It is sort of a tax to send those over. So he would lose a bunch of food in the process. But Bert might have a lot of wood and need more food, or a lot of gold and need more food. So they could be coordinating there a little bit better.
Yeah.
Or in the meantime, I mean, he's also spent 700 food while we've watched, just
while we've been
building up
talking.
more and more things. He's got archers going right
He's
there,
about to
which
be housed. I think he might have just been. Yes,
Oh.
he was.
Yes.
Got to get some more houses built to take care of all this military. They need somewhere to stay.
that's one of those things that you just can't forget in Age of Empires is you're constantly producing units, and with the higher population cap, that means you need to keep building houses.
Just houses everywhere.
It never stops.
You
The
get a
first-
house. You get a house.
There are like 3 things that you need to do first and never stop doing. One of them is harvest food at the beginning of the game.
He's obviously got that one.
One of them is the first thing that you should always do is start building a villager immediately,
all
and
the
then
time.
never stop
Never,
building
ever.
villagers. Always
If your
hit
town
that.
center does not have a villager going, you are doing it wrong.
Yep, and that can be difficult. I'm not telling anybody. we're
Oh
not
yeah,
telling
no, I
anybody
mean
at home
I
that-
forget that all the time.
Exactly.
But,
It's very
if
easy
you're
to forget.
trying to be on the Bert and Will level, you build villagers all the time.
So he just tried to click up. He does have enough to click up to the
Always got to get some buildings
Age
built.
4, but he didn't have enough of his Bronze Age buildings built. So he actually needed to. There he goes. So he got a government center up, and now he's gonna.
Now he's getting
Now he's
there.
gonna click up to that Iron Age, start getting those resources, because if he's gonna defend against those cavalry archers, he's going to need better units than just the improved bowmen that he's
Yeah.
been putting out there. That's enough to possibly defend against a raid from Will, but it's not gonna do enough to
Really
like,
attack and
yeah.
press that advantage. Yeah. And that's going to mean that we are going to have the entire team of Bert and Chaos Mole in the Iron Age, and Ice Rocker and Will both still in the Bronze Age, which could be a big factor in who wins these helmets.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. If we have any questions from the Mixer chat at any point, we are here. Like, that's literally our jobs as community managers. That's what we do, is talk to you guys and send all of that feedback. Make sure those people in the who are making decisions hear that feedback. So we super appreciate it. We had a beta of 140,000 people testing
giving
this
us their
game,
feedback.
helping us make this game the best it could possibly be. And so that's why, like, this game really is built as much by the community as it is by everybody here at Microsoft
over
and FE.
at our studio audience, and they look very worried. Is there something I'm totally missing on these screens? Oh goodness, there is a big old army from Chaos Mole. Looks like heading over into Will's home.
Yeah, let's check in.
This
Let's
is
check in
really
with Will,
insane.
or let's check in with Will because he's
I just
got.
saw a bunch of worried faces. I was like, hang on.
That is a whole lot. Yeah, that is a whole lot of.
Oh, my lord.
Oh yeah, beautiful. And there are those Carthaginian triremes.
Yes,
Bert
those
is
are
sending in
tough
his
to,
navy to keep those cavalry archers in check, but it's not going to be enough. There's
not
just too
quite.
many cavalry archers. Like I said before, those cavalry archers are cheap and effective. Will hasn't even clicked up to the Bronze or to the Iron Age, but he's still
Definitely
sort of
holding
dominating.
his own. Yeah, for sure.
And this is a tricky area because typically, I mean, you might want to wall off one of these isthmuses, one of these fording areas where Will might be able to cross. But if you look at the way this one is shaped, he's actually able to kind of cross in two directions.
You know
So it's
what? It
harder
looks
to-
like
to
it looks
define.
like Will might actually be going for artifact win here. He has all the artifacts and now only has to hold them for 2,000
Is that
years.
art?
That's
I think
an
that's
artifact countdown.
I think that's Bert. I think that's
that
Bert's
Bert?
color. Yeah, I think that's Bert has all the artifacts. So
Yes, he does.
Bert
Oh,
has
goodness.
Bert has put everybody on a timer right now, which means that Will has to get to him, which is great for
Steal
Bert
his
because
artifacts.
those cheaper. Bert wants to build, as the Carthaginians, he wants to build those cheaper units, those cheaper academy units, but they're slow. It's hard to cross the map with them. So he wants Will to come to him, where he can just be pumping out those academy units over and over and over.
That's really a great idea, especially because I believe Bert is still the only one who is walled off. So Will and or Ice Rock are going to have to change their strategy a bit, either load up on some war galleys or just kind of rush him and trying to destroy those walls to get in there and get those artifacts back.
One thing that they could do, Will sort of is safe for the moment in that isthmus. He can attack this wall, obviously, which is looks like what he's
going
about
for?
to do. He could also bring some villagers up there and
Build a tower or
build a siege workshop.
That
And
is also helpful,
Start
yeah.
pumping out some stone throwers, upgrade to catapults. Look, Will is. He's on the attack. He's being forced. Oh my God, this is great. This is what good teamwork. What good
goodness.
teamwork. Will is being forced to retreat from his attack on Bert because he's got Chaos Mole in his base. So all of those cavalry, all of those
Oh my
archers that
God,
we
this is
saw,
insane.
that 4,000 food that Chaos Mole had, that's being put to use right now in Will's
just
base.
pumping out a massive army.
And he's not going to win. That's the thing. Like he's got bowmen and cavalry. Like,
But it doesn't even matter.
He's
He
not gonna win.
Just distracts Will long enough to
Exactly.
let Bert win. Although
This
I
is-
don't see that artifact clock anymore. It looks like Will must have snuck in there at some point
Oh,
and got
did we
one of those
steal one of those
artifacts. Because that clock
Oh,
is
wow.
gone.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
That was a very good
I
play
missed
by
that
Chaos
happening.
Mole, but it looks like it might not work out this time.
Although I told you, I predicted, and perhaps I predicted wrong.
Oh, no. Bert's got him back.
Bert's
but
got him
now
back.
he starts back over at 2,000 years, which I believe we figured out in-game is just about 15 minutes.
Just over
That is
15 minutes, and that was a
long
GG.
time.
Wow,
Oh,
that was a GG from Will and Ice Rocker.
That is impressive.
Oh my goodness, what a game. That was so much fun.
That was a quick game too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It can really kind of depend on just how crazy everybody goes, and these guys were serious because they all want those helmets.
Yeah, that was some really good gameplay. Congratulations to Will and to Ice Rocker. They were just both fantastic plays. Those chariot archers were amazing, but that teamwork between Bert and Chaos Mole
Was really great.
yeah, was so good. Chaos Mole showed up each time at just the right time to stop Will from being able to get back into Bert's base, which gave Bert the chance to create more hoplites, create more naval units, and really exert that map control that eventually won them the game.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
Fantastic. Oh, hey, look, it's our face.
Hey, let's talk about strategy a bit too. Now, Bert, I feel like was always on the offensive. He was getting
getting those artifacts. He was trying to get to the next age as quick as possible. How did that help and benefit his team play with Chaos Mole?
Well, I mean, it obviously kind of worked to distract Will. I mean, I think it took Will a bit longer than it would normally have taken him to get to the Iron Age and kind of get going on the things that he had planned. Because if you're just being picked on by all those bad guys all the time, it's hard to focus on what you're doing.
Exactly, and Bert being able to focus on his economy while Chaos Mole sort of ran interference on him is what let him get up to those ages so much faster and really get to the part where the Carthaginians shine.
Yeah.
So Will did a great thing as the Shang by going aggressive very, very early and trying to get an advantage that way. But Chaos Mole just wasn't having it, and he was able to of run enough interference that Bert was able to build up and then just sort of become a dominating force of the map.
What could Ice Rocker and Will have done differently to maybe turn the tide of battle?
So Ice Rocker, as the Romans, gets a discount on buildings.
On walls.
So
that means like walls, towers, all that kind of stuff. I guess walls might not be built.
So possibly, possibly what Ice Rocker could have done, being on Bert's flank as she was, she could have sort of come in a little bit earlier and put the pressure on a little bit more. Possibly even rushed for towers. Just anything to stop those Carthaginians from getting into the Bronze Age too early.
They kind of, obviously they can wreck shop.
Yeah.
Like they really can.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about the sort of the distance on this map, and Will, he was up in the Tool Age before anybody else. He definitely could have sent in some of those axemen and done some damage, but there just wasn't enough time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and check out the bracket and see who's going to be moving on. In the next match we have Bert and Chaos Mole moving on to the finals. And the next match we have is going to be Justin versus CS188 versus Adam and Jexodus. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around for this look at the music of Age of Empires. We'll be right back.
The original Age of Empires actually didn't have that main theme. That didn't actually come about until the second Age of Empires game. So I went back and I personally wrote the main theme for the game. And it's the first thing that you hear when you launch the title. It has the memorable thematic element that is identified with Age of Empires, so you will immediately recognize it. And then we expanded upon that. We picked apart every track. I must have listened to each of those tracks 200 times each. And we pulled out the elements, the elements that are endemic to the track. A lot of indigenous flutes, a lot of indigenous wind and brass instruments mixed with heavy percussion.
Your A in the middle of the line, it's, for example, 31. The A in the middle is a bit too flat.
Originally, we were just going to take the tracks and make them better. As we started diving in, we realized, we hit a gold mine of material. I went to the well and asked for some additional funding so that we could bookend the experience with orchestral tracks. The music was recorded by the Philharmonic Orchestra in Prague in a single one-day session. As music started rolling off the production line, people were really enjoying what they were hearing, so I was able, at the end of the day, to get about 20 minutes of the full score recorded with a 66-piece orchestra. It makes a huge difference. To walk away with the fondness that the generation did 20 years ago and be able to carry that on through the next generation of the franchise.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Age of Empires Definitive Edition launch. I'm still Kate Yeager, and we're still live here at the Mixer NYC studio at the flagship Microsoft store in New York City. And I have been following along with what you all have had to say on Mixer, on Twitter. Here are some of my faves One more time. On Mixer, user Sylvian Lover, 188, sorry, said Age of Empires is kind of nostalgic to me. Glad to hear a great remaster. With user Nymph137, God, I love these names, adding, yay, it's back! A lot of people here in the studio would echo that sentiment. And even more of you guys are excited for the release of the definitive edition, with user Loco Loki saying, can't wait, so many feels. Oh, hearts. Over on Twitter, user Ivan Kustro said, Age of Empires is back! Now let's bring back real LAN parties in someone's basement. Yes! Excellent. And user BoysisMan said, so glad that there's a definitive edition. I never got to play the original. I hope I'll get the new one and have fun with it. And we're giving away codes as well, by the way, in that Mixer chat, all broadcast long. So make sure to go to mixer.com/Age of Empires. I'm not sure how you're watching outside of that, but if you are there, make sure to chat. Congratulations to all of our winners so far, including user I Am Dalv and Joko Selva. Oh, goodness. Remember, use the hashtag Age of Empires and hashtag AOEDE to make sure I see your comments on Twitter. For now, let's head back over to Josh to get the next match started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. And way to go with those names.
There are a lot of them, and I gotta say, that's probably the hardest thing about doing these streams.
Now let's get into our second match. Our first team is going to be Justin Roby and CS188, and they'll be facing off against Adam Eisgreen and Jexodus. While they're getting set up, Jen and Joe, what are we looking forward to in this match?
Well, unlike Will and Bert, who are just ringers,
Ridiculously
absolute
good at
ringers.
this game.
Justin and Adam are more of a wild card, so I'm not actually sure what we're gonna see out of Justin and Adam. Now we were haunting some people's streams, and we saw Jexodus, for example, just improve immensely. In just the
I remember how to play this game. It took him a minute to get back into it, but once he did, it was just really amazing to watch. So.
Yeah, so we can see at the very least a lot of creative gameplay. I think we're actually going to see a lot of things that are pretty unexpected.
I'm pretty sure we can mostly just plan on seeing Adam and Justin kind of picking on each other, really, because I mean that's what they do in real life, and I assume that it translates into Age of Empires.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So let's get into it. It looks like Justin is playing Shang. We've got CS188. On the gosh, it's tough to see. Let's jump into let's see what Adam or Jexodus is doing, and we'll see what's going on here. But you'll see everybody in the beginning basically has the same start, and it's get those villagers going, get some food. Jexodus is currently searching for food. He just found his berries. So he's going to get his villagers over there. He's going to build a granary, get started, and there's some fish right there. So he found the fish. Again, fishing is a great way to hyperdrive your economy early on. He's got some gazelles right there, so he's got a pretty good map start here. The one thing he doesn't have, and the one thing he's not doing, is gathering wood.
He's got a couple
there he
people
goes.
on wood over there.
He's gathering wood over there, so he's going to be able to build some of those houses. And when you're fishing, you really need to get that wood going, almost more than food, because that
get them
wood,
fishing ships
those
out there
fishing
to
ships
get
are-
the food,
get those
to get the
fishing ships.
villagers.
And he can't
Fish
stop.
and chip.
And he can't
I
stop
didn't even
building the
need to do
house. I totally missed that. I was
I
just
said
on
it,
my
I
chair.
said it, and I
genius.
missed
Oh,
that.
that's great.
Well, I'm glad that you're here to know when I say
I got
jokes.
you. That's what I'm here for. So be the listener.
Oh, goodness.
So Jexodus is playing as the Egyptians, who are regarded as like it's actually a really good Civ for beginners, because they get their gold a lot faster, which means those really good expensive units are easier to get. It hurts less when you get them because you're just mining so much quicker. In addition to which, they have the best priests in the game. Their priests have +3 range.
I hope we're going to see some Wololos this game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Exactly. And the Egyptians, again, also their chariot units are also a lot stronger. So those very powerful chariot archers that Will was spamming last game in Jexodus's hands
are going to be even stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Jen, is there a strategy or is there a benefit to spreading out your camp?
I mean, it kind of depends on, what kind of map you're on, exactly where your placement is. Like, it looks like Jexodus' map is already kind of having to be spread out because he's got water way over on this side and trees way over on this side. So obviously he's going to have to. The real problem with that comes when you've got, when you're trying to build walls and kind of defend, then you've got a bigger area to defend and try to keep safe. But honestly, it ends up being pretty spread out anyways, because obviously you're going to have to build a ton of houses, you're going to have to build a bunch of buildings. So it's kind of just planning it, putting them in between some trees that you can use as natural barriers, stuff like that, that kind of, separates the great players from the learning players.
So let's step into CS188's stream here and see what this strategy looks like. You'll notice the placement on CS188's storage pit here. Storage pits can gather, you can drop anything at a storage pit except for berries, essentially, and food from farms. So that storage pit is right next to a pile of gold and a bunch of trees. So that makes that's a great placement because that makes his villagers have to walk that much less, which means he's getting things that much faster.
Oh, and he killed some what looks like gazelles over there too.
Oh, yes,
so
there's
they've
also
got a
hunting
short way to go to drop that food.
Oh, that's perfect.
That is a perfect storage pit placement.
Yeah, that's really good. That's gonna save him a lot of resources and a lot of time in the long run. He's not even mining gold right now, but it was very forward-looking to be able to place that. Very lucky to be able to place that in a spot that was not only next to trees and hunting things that he needs right now, but also next to minerals that he's going to need once he hits the tool age.
And he's also the Assyrians, which means his villagers move 10% faster, which means that wonderful storage pit placement is just going to be that much more helpful because it takes him mere seconds to go between the trees and that thing. Actually, less than a second. That villager was gone for like half a second from those trees and was right back at it.
So we talked about how at the beginning of this game, we talked a little bit about how we're probably not going to see as much classic gameplay, as much gameplay that's quote meta appropriate,
heavily strategic.
And
yes.
And if you take a look at these mini maps, neither team is really doing a whole lot of scouting right now.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, you might expect in a different in a different match or with a different group that these scouts you'd be sending out a scout a little bit earlier. However, one of the differences between Age of Empires Definitive Edition and Age 2 is you don't start with a scout. I know we mentioned this last game, but it bears repeating.
Out wandering in the wilderness.
Sending a villager out is, first of all, dangerous because there are lions, as we saw last time, that like to eat
alligators and just all kinds of crazy stuff.
And Justin just found one. He just found an alligator who's taken out some of his villagers. Took a couple bites, but they're
took care of it eventually.
Moving on. So Justin's finally got one of those going. But just the fact that you have your villagers out scouting means that you're not gathering resources as quickly, and so it's kind of tough to really get good scouting before you are able to get scout in the tool age on a horse, and that's really when you start getting map awareness.
And even in order
important.
to do that, you've got to build a stable. There's a lot of things that have to be done before you can really start efficiently scouting the map in a not so dangerous way.
And in addition to which, once you find your enemy, which Justin just did, and he's gonna build a barracks. Is he gonna get away? He just walked in. He's gonna walk out, and he might just
Who did he even walk into? Was that Jexodus or Adam?
I was gonna say. I think like. You send your villagers out, you try and get them to find where these guys are. Justin's got a great strategy here that he sent them out, but you kind of got to assume that they're going to get killed. Yeah. You got to assume that.
They apparently did not.
Oh
my God, another barrack.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to be fantastic.
Who is playing?
I believe it's Jexodus. I think he's right next to Jexodus.
Oh, no, poor Jexodus.
So we're going to see Jexodus is also...
Sneak attack.
Jexodus is actually also scouting. He's scouting down here, and this is exactly what I was talking about. You got to assume that scout villager is going to meet somebody because he's been all over the map. He's been bitten by lions and tigers and bears.
Can't really fight off anybody else.
Exactly. So you're gonna lose that guy. And so Jexodus is focusing on his economy. He has no idea what's coming. Jexodus, but he does have an archery range down. He's which is gonna be helpful against those
against all the axemen that are probably coming at him in just a moment.
He's already up in the tool age, which is great. And Justin, as blue, Justin has clicked up, but he's not in the tool age yet, which means he does not have the Axemen upgrade, it is tough to do significant damage to your enemy before you are able to get the
Base
Axemen
Axemen,
upgrade. Because he starts with Clubmen.
Clubmen, yeah.
Before you get the Axemen upgrade. And in the Tool Age, he just hit the Tool Age, and now he's probably going to go to his storage pit before too long. You got to build your market first. He's going to go to his storage pit before too long and research the hand-to-hand combat edition. He doesn't have enough food, and that's why so now we're seeing in action what I was talking about before, having those villagers
Gone scouting, not gathering food. It's a real problem.
They could have possibly gathered, two more villagers worth of
stuff.
stuff.
That guy was just standing there.
Yeah, he was waiting. He was waiting to build a farm
10 idle
right there.
villagers right now. Looks like he's getting some of them on to farming, which is going to be very helpful.
So we're seeing great strategy from Justin, but his micro and his tactics are coming up against lack of. Sort of a lack of micro.
He hasn't got the economy booming enough to kind of take the micro and run with it, which, to be fair, is a lot to focus on, and it's something that unless you
Justin's
are
not happy about that lack of food. He's like, get them going. Come on, Shang.
Goodness.
Only the Shang villagers are cheaper, not anything else. So he's really got to get that food going. He's been living the good life in the Stone Age because those villagers are just so cheap and easy to make. But once you want to start making other guys, man, that's it. So he's got that battle axe.
Expensive, and he's got a few villagers over there. You could make them head home, maybe get some farms out. But
or even
looks like he may have forgotten them.
Even start mining somewhere else. He's working on getting people going. He's just looking for farms right now.
He's like, come on, guys.
He's also about to run out of wood, which is another.
It's going to be very bad for him because that means no more farms.
Yep. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Oh boy.
So here it is, and the real question is now: is Jaxodus prepared for what's happening?
He does have quite a few archery ranges over there. It looks like. I don't know if he's actually been pumping out archers.
Oh, and here they are. So let's go to Jaxodus. Let's go to Jaxodus and see how he gets going.
He's causing some havoc in those farms.
Once again, you cannot. And he's going to drop a tower.
Tower up. Oh, get it.
He's going to drop a tower, and Justin's getting distracted by the villagers to the north. He's not.
Boy.
And he didn't get those villagers. He should have gotten at those villagers as soon as they saw him building, because that's definitely what was about to happen. Now Jaxodus is having some archers.
He has like 2 archers made though. This is going to take him in, and he is also very low on food and wood. This might not go great.
Yeah, he might need some support from his homie Adam. Justin, just great strategy. I love the Axemen rush, especially like all across the map, like it happened, but it just wasn't quite enough. It didn't have quite enough resources.
And he's run away from that tower.
Now Justin's
got another tower.
He got another tower down.
All right.
Jaxodus is doing a great job of getting those villagers out of harm's way, kiting those Axemen as they go, but those villagers are just kind of gonna take a bunch of damage. Justin needs to get his Axemen out of range of those towers, but they're just taking a bunch of shots. I think his investment in this strategy is eventually going to, I think he's not going to make as much profit here as he would have liked to. I mean,
but he's definitely distracting Jaxodus, who again has 0 gold right now, low on food, doing decently on wood. I think he might have some villagers in the woods a bit further away from town, so they're not being picked on quite as much.
The thing here, though, is that with something like an Axemen Rush, you're not expecting to beat your opponent right out. You are just trying to disrupt.
Slow them down from getting their economy going.
Disrupt their economy. I think he took out maybe 4, maybe 5 villagers, which is still for a normal civ for the Egyptians. It's 250 food that now you have to go and
also
and
all of
figure
the
out.
time that those villagers were not on those farms. So another loss of however much food that would have been in those like 2 or 3 minutes.
Exactly.
So.
One other thing that we are not seeing very much of at all, I think it's only CS188 looks like that has actually built any boats. If you look at the mini-map there, only one person
We're
is
just
taking.
not destined to get any naval battles today, guys.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. CS188 is the only one who's getting all of this free food.
He's got so many fish to fry.
So I would say that if perhaps if Justin had focused on more wood, had gotten a dock going maybe a little bit earlier, instead of spending all of that wood on those farms. early on, he could have spent all of that wood in the Stone Age, gotten
Getting
a bunch
just
of
so many fish.
yeah, getting a bunch of fish, getting a lot of food, and then finally being able to pivot and actually rush those axemen out a lot more quickly.
I do agree that could have been a very strong tactic. Although, to be fair, I think his barracks might still just be hanging out there next to Jexodus's place. So if Jexodus doesn't find those, it could come in handy later once he's kind of built up a bit more in the resources department.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I think Jexodus is likely to find him. In fact,
he actually might have already.
It looks like we've got a wall up there.
So
looks like
probably
he
found
did
them and
get
was just like,
wise.
I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah. Probably found them. Jexodus still does have an axeman in his base.
Oh, there we go. He went down. He walked into the range of that
Yeah.
tower, and it was not a good day for
Yeah.
him.
Well, I don't think Justin was microing that guy.
He was just kind of like, go, be free, attack
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, he's just kind of throwing him in there. So getting a little bit of team chat here.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are
They
coordinating
are
pretty well.
serious. Everybody wants those helmets. I want those helmets. I'm going to steal them from someone before I leave today.
All right, Jen, you're in the finals. You can tag out.
I am a better caster than I am a player, I think.
And that's
which
not
is,
saying- I'm
saying
just-
something.
All right.
Oh.
So let's see what is going on.
I don't think we've looked at Adam's screen barely at all. So
Oh, yeah,
let's go check in with Adam.
Let's find out what's going on with Adam. What is Adam up to? What are you even doing, Adam? Get in the game. Adam
is
is the
the
Persians,
Persians
which means that
today.
we are going to see some elephants if we can get him up to those.
I hope we see some elephants. I really do love them.
I love elephants. Adam is also particularly well suited for naval battles. So if he wanted to take control of this map, he gets bonuses to his triremes, not to his war galleys.
But the triremes are pretty helpful.
Once you do the trireme upgrade, again in the Bronze Age, he can just sort of own the oceans here because nobody else is really trying to do it.
CS188 is only going 50 feet from the shore to get those fish. So yeah, if Adam just comes out with a armada of ships, he could really do
And
some serious damage.
Adam just now clicking up to the Bronze Age, so he's been a little bit harassed, I think,
it does look like it.
by CS188.
It looks like pretty well defended at this point.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of watchtowers out.
He's like, I am
He's
done.
like, I am not dealing with this.
I am done. I am done with this, and we are just gonna keep on going.
He must have some fishing boats or something somewhere because I only see a few farms in his village.
Well, if you look, he's not gaining food very quickly. He's only got 68
That's
food
true.
left.
Maybe he's kind of
In fact-
forgotten. Oh, okay.
In fact, he's pulling
an elephant
an
instead of the
elephant.
fishes. That's an interesting choice.
And the other interesting choice here is I'm not actually seeing a good drop-off
Yeah,
point.
they're gonna. oh no! I
so-
think he was trying to kite it, and it was not working out for him
He was
very well.
he was trying to draw it way further back. I think he might have even been trying to
Gonna
draw
dock
it
down right
all
over
the way
there.
back.
That would be a great placement for some dockage.
Mhm.
Getting those fishies.
All right, so he went to the market. We just saw him upgrade his wood chopping, so he's going to be able to get some wood
Oh,
if
he's
he
got
chooses.
some fishermen over there. That's something.
They are picking up fish, but look how far they're having to
Yes.
walk back and forth.
Gotta get some
That's
swords.
really wasting a lot of time for his economy. So he's not going to catch up at this point. Even though he's now in the Bronze Age, he's really got to find some new sources of food because those elephants and those shorefish just aren't going to do it.
No, not quite.
Okay, so let's check in with CS188. Looks like
some walls
he's doing
going
some
up.
walling as well.
They were listening to us last time, telling people that defenses were important.
So something
and
that
some
we saw,
chariots.
something that we saw Jexodus doing earlier, and something we just saw CS188 do, I think, is another new feature. You're able to select both of your stables and queue buildings in them evenly.
so
That's
cool.
another quality of life definitive edition upgrade.
Instead of just having to be like, okay, I need to spread these out. I'll go click on this one 7 times, and then click on this one 7 times. You just do it, and it's great.
And we just saw him send some gold to his good buddy Justin.
Hey.
So we'll find out what Justin plans on doing with his newfound wealth
They have
before
been
too
talking
long.
quite a bit up there. They got some secret plans happening. Over
And like
there.
we saw last time, I mean, teamwork is what makes the
Very
dream work.
important. It really, really is.
Teamwork makes the dream work, and they are just making it happen. Look at those guys; they're even like color coordinated.
So concentrated.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, it's easy with a Mixer shirt and an Age of Empires shirt. We got the same base color, same base blue.
Okay. Looks like, are we going for, oh, I thought it was going for a temple real quick. Nobody's trying to get a government center
I
down.
really want somebody to go for the temples. Who do we have? The Egyptians this time who are
The
good
Egyptians?
with priests? I
Egyptians could
really,
do it.
really hope
Egyptians
that we
could do
got
it.
some Egyptian priests. That would
Yeah.
be so great.
Jaxodus and Adam, though, are both a little bit behind.
Yep.
So
Jaxus was majorly distracted by Justin. Adam was distracted, I'm assuming, by CS-188.
Yeah, and
oh,
even if-
goodness.
let's
And
get
there
into
is
CS-188
a
right now,
line of
'cause
chariot archers
looks like
heading
we
into
got
Adam's
some,
base.
Yep, looks like we got some chariot archers who are coming in
Oh, good
and
God.
just doing some.
Those watchtowers did nothing.
Oh yeah, they're
Oh,
not
Lord.
gonna. They're not gonna defend.
Oh, Lord, and that fisherman is dead from those archers. Now they're going to take
Oh,
down that
poor fishies.
watchtower.
No,
oh,
my
no. Oh, no. This
Uh-oh,
does not look good.
Yeah, this is a big surprise. He's got chariot archers as well as cavalry units.
Looks like Jaxodus also
the
has some
Assyrians.
chariot archers and hopefully are heading over to help Adam because it definitely looks like he needs it. And yep, he is heading over to join the battle. We're gonna have Jaxodus coming in from the northwest over there.
Oh yeah, but let's actually. Oh goodness, and he just found a whole group
Oh, boy.
of. It looks like looks like Jaxodus's army.
Yep, running in to save Adam's butt a little bit.
Yep. So let's jump over to Jaxodus's. Yeah,
Oh,
there
boy.
it is. All right,
Oh,
Jaxodus
boy.
saying, "Get out of my buddy's house here." But
Oh, I really like it.
Adam's economy right now, I just feel for it. Adam
Not
is
sure
gonna have
it can
such a
really
hard-
bounce back.
Adam is going to have such a hard time bouncing back from this one, especially with Jaxodus sort of.
I'm also not really sure where Jaxodus is going now. It looks like he's sending somebody
he's-
into.
I think he's heading down for counterattack. I think
Okay, yeah,
it looks like
heading
he's
down to
looks like he's
CS8.
snaking down south, and he's going to try and take advantage of this.
Not a bad
over,
plan at all.
Hopefully
Oh
overreach.
boy, but he ran into
but he
some
didn't know-
clubmen.
He didn't know.
Oh god, or
Justin
some
was
axemen.
there.
Oh
no,
god.
and those chariot archers are just going to take so much damage
Oh,
from
no.
those slingers. In between the those slingers and the other. Oh man, yeah, that's just not.
This is not looking good for Team Adam and Jaxodus.
Although they've done fairly well, like stopping the tide.
They really, really have,
nobody's
yes.
getting like way ahead of them. But
Their
if
attacks just aren't really
you know, if
working.
you look at the score,
I mean, yeah,
you're seeing CS-188 just way ahead in points, and Jaxodus and Adam are both fending off these attacks, but they're having a hard time effectively getting good counterattacks.
Yeah, when you
going.
have to just put all of your resources and your time and your effort into building up the armies to hold off attacks, you
Mhm.
really can't focus on kind of, aging up and getting your plans going. You're just having to kind of counterattack other people's plans, and it is very not helpful.
And in the meantime, if we can go back to that four-screen view, you can compare the two mini-maps, which I think is super telling. One
Oh,
team
definitely.
just owns the
Seen
ocean.
everywhere.
It just owns the ocean. And Adam and Jaxodus just haven't even gotten in there. So that means CS-188, even while he's doing all of this,
It's just constantly
micro,
getting food.
he's just getting free food all the
Constantly.
time. Nobody's even challenging him. So he's not even having to think about like, oh, do I need more boats? Do I need to defend my fishing
No,
fleet?
because
He just
nobody's
needs to be doing
picking
more.
on him
yeah.
about it at all.
Yeah, so I think that's super telling. The map awareness as well. Nobody's really even scouted Justin's base on Adam and Jaxodus' team.
No, really, I mean, you can see just the difference in maps really completely
So let's
different.
let's jump down into CS-188 because this is
Oh boy,
an
big
effective
old battle going on over there.
an effective. He's back in Justin's base or in Adam's base, and I just don't see.
Shot.
He's
And
got
Justin's in there too, picking
Yeah.
on him. This is not going good for Yellow. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, so
Oh,
those chariot
no.
archers, the Assyrians.
Oh, it looks like Jaxodus is trying to run in and help, but I'm not entirely sure what he's going to be able to do about that.
Yeah, he might. I mean, it depends on who he's sending in, but he.
It looks like Adam is trying to get to the edge of the map and run away with a couple of villagers.
Just run
He's
away
just
and
going
hide.
and making a
Yeah.
new village. I'm leaving. I'm going to go live in the woods.
That is something that you can do. That if you want to just try and like.
I would definitely
delay
go
an act-
turtle somewhere and
Yeah.
just be like, nah, I'm done. I'm out.
It might be their only hope at this point. So it looks like Adam's going to go down. The real question is whether Jexodus is going to be able to
battle back.
Use the time essentially. At this point, it's almost like Adam is a lost cause, and
so maybe he can just use this to build up his own economy. Yeah,
exactly.
It looks like he might be kind of heading up to defend. I'm really not sure.
He does have a military going here, so he is gonna be able to do some defense.
He does have a pretty good sized army. I mean, look at all those yellow dots on the mini map. He's gonna hold his own for a bit at least. I hope.
Got just so many arrows. Training chariot archers. He's fighting fire with fire.
I
Those
hear
chariot
so many
archers.
Swords right now. Oh, it's still Adam's base. Okay, got it.
Still Adam's base being destroyed.
Another thing that we're seeing a lot of is gather points. He's got all of his chariot archers gathering in one place.
Get over here, and I'm going to send you all as a giant wave against my enemies.
It's another thing that, you know what? People forget that it wasn't in the original because we're so used to it. We forget that was invented after Age of Empires was first done 20 years ago. And when you try and play the classic, you're like, wait, I can't do what?
We were playing in our office the other day, kind of trying to, get into this game and just have a ton of fun, which it always is, of course. And Joe said something. He was playing classic mode, and Joe was like, "Oh my God, I can't set a gather point." And I was like, "What? How do you do this without gather points? I don't understand."
It's just kind of harder to play, and it's not like more difficult or more challenging. It's just kind of like it's not as comfortable. It's not as it's kind of not quite as fun. And there have just been so many improvements on what we're actually doing in the definitive edition here. And by the way, you can play the classic mode, but for the most part,
it's got some tweaks that were just necessary.
There are some things.
Here comes Jexodus' army.
It's all going to come down to this. It's all going to come down to this.
There's just an elephant standing in the middle.
We've got cavalry.
Hey guys, what's up?
We've got cavalry. We've got we've got Adam's towers up there helping out.
All right.
So let's go and see what's going on with
might be sending in some
here.
chariot archers as well to help out.
And you can actually see we are switching zoom levels a little bit when we go back and forth between people. So you can zoom in to like really micro your units, or you can zoom all the way out if you want to get like a bigger map awareness.
Yeah, I was actually noticing that earlier. It looks like Jexodus kind of values the tighter in, closer look to make sure that he's microing really well. And then we've got like CS188 and Justin kind of zoomed out, getting a wider view of things. It's just a very cool.
And these chariot archers, man, they are they do have an additional 35% HP because they are Egyptian chariot units. And Jexodus is going to be able to fend off this attack. But again, I don't think he's going to have enough left over to counterattack.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing decently on resources. It looks like he's got either 1,000 or 3,000 gold. I think that's a 1. And so, he's got some stores saved up, but he is almost out of wood in his area. Look at all that forest that has just been decimated. So he might end up having some issues there.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think he really needs to do now, Adam is sort of
moot at this point.
Down and out, yeah. The one thing that I think Jexodus really needs to do here is just pull off a really slick counterattack. He can keep on. Adam is
just coming to the rescue with watchtowers.
Doing his job, just putting down towers. That is what he has decided he can do. He's got enough stones still coming.
4 villagers. Oh, poor Adam.
Yeah, he's got 4 and 0 houses, right?
And 0 houses.
He's got a maximum population of 0. But he still has 4 villagers, so he needs to put
he's
down
got 3 of them in here building buildings, and I'm going to assume 1 just hiding. Or maybe that guy was chopping wood. That might have been his villager.
So those cavalry archers, they're fighting the good fight, but this is a pretty much foregone conclusion right now. I think what needed to happen was really getting in and first of all fighting over that water. I think there's no reason not to fish if you can.
No.
Even if you're not going to fight over it, you should really just
be using that free resource.
You're on a map called Mediterranean. I mean, there's gonna be
some fish.
Yeah,
you just like that's what you eat there, right?
Big old ocean in the water or in the middle of the map there. But like we mentioned earlier, or we mentioned in the making of documentary, it's going to be different every time.
Oh, definitely.
The previous map we saw in the match had rivers crisscrossing the whole thing, and now you can see
Pretty much
on
just
Jackson's-
one giant lake.
It's just sort of all over. It's almost like a different map called Oasis, which is similar
But
in
a
its
bit smaller in its lake size.
and the lake is much smaller, has much fewer fish, and is surrounded by trees. So it's like the best place to be to get wood and to beat your enemy, but really hard to wall off. We also could have seen better walling. Adam thought he was safe with those 3 or 4 watchtowers, and those
They did not do very much.
Those chariot archers blew right past them. They didn't even care.
They just sprinted through and it was fine.
So Adam needed to supplement
Okay,
those towers
Adam's built
with.
some houses. Just so everyone knows,
All right, he's
got
coming back.
4 houses now. So I
Here-
think we could see a comeback maybe.
Here it comes. Here it comes. He's not ready to GG just yet. Yeah.
This is pretty great.
And but we're on CS 188
This just
right now.
giant walls of armies just
Yeah.
fighting head to head.
And so CS 188 right now is at the point where he is just gathering enough that he can constantly produce units. And oh man, those chariot archers, chariots versus chariots. Now again, one-on-one, those Assyrian chariot archers are not going to beat those Egyptian archers, but
On a big old group like that, might have a chance.
and
I mean, just
haven't
look
been
at all
looking
those
at the stats. I
dead
need to
chariot archers.
need to take a look at those stats. It looks like Jexodus has upgraded armor. He's upgraded pierce armor, which is helpful against archers. But shucks, I didn't see what CS 188 had on his chariot archers. I'm sure we haven't seen the last chariot archer from
No,
CS 188.
you know what?
though.
I feel
So
like
we'll
there will
see.
be more. And
Yeah.
I gotta say, I am pretty impressed with our
There it
mixer
is.
partners here. I mean, obviously, we know exactly kind of the levels of the people that we work with every day. And I really didn't know what to expect from people who haven't been working on the game and had a chance to practice for the last few months. These guys are only really getting a chance through the beta.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty impressed with how much they are holding their own. This is pretty great.
Yeah, CS 188 is we're witnessing like a slow takeover of the map. Like every time we check back in with him, his mini map is more expanded. He's now actually dominating the oceans
Literally
with
the
military.
entire ocean.
Yeah, so he's heading in. He's gonna
Oh,
send in some
boy.
naval support.
Oh boy.
And hopefully that will help him, or he's hoping that
gonna
will help him.
Do some real damage
yeah.
here. Although I don't know,
Keep
there's
people off.
not very much over here.
Well,
Okay, there
there-
we go. Gonna
yeah.
shoot at those villagers.
Got some.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, are those Adam's villagers?
Oh boy,
Are
I
those
think
Adam's
they are.
villagers?
I think
oh,
they're
no, Adam! Oh no, Adam! Your poor villagers, they are. They totally are. Adam's like, come on, look at him.
He's still got 13, 14,
That is the
13.
face of a man in rage. Just look at the rage
Yeah.
behind his eyes.
I don't know if Adam has rage mode. I really
I know
don't.
Adam's
he's
a
kinda
very
too sweet.
he's a very good sport, but he can be. But if I were him right now, I'd
but-
just be like, oh, what is
Looks
happening?
like Jexodus is again throwing in the chariot archers and trying to come to the rescue. We will see how well that goes, though.
This is
'cause he
great
is
teamwork.
fighting on so many different fronts.
I mean, yeah, Adam is just trying to give Jexodus the best possible
Just
chance
like,
he
I'm
can.
just going to stay alive. I'm going to distract people. I'm going to throw
Exactly.
up watchtowers. Like, you go.
Meanwhile, we have not checked in with Justin in a while.
That's
Justin's
true.
the only one in Age 4 right now. So he's the only one in
Oh,
Iron Age
wow.
right now. Justin, I think, is going to be the key to winning this game because he has been doing not a whole lot. He's been throwing
He's got
in
a lot of slingers there.
Slingers
A
are
whole
cheap.
lot of slingers.
Slingers aren't really doing anything. They do help against chariot archers, though.
They do. I mean,
So-
having some ranged units to fight those guys with is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And slingers specifically get a bonus against
Oh,
them.
no!
And that is GG. Wow.
Good job, guys. Oh,
Great
my gosh.
job.
That was hard fought.
That was hard.
Oh my goodness. We saw this was a story of the two devs. Oh my god. This was a story of the two devs just like supporting their mixer partner counterparts.
Just doing so well. Adam had a rough game, but honestly, that went fantastically for Justin in CS 188.
You could almost say the turn of the tide of battle was CS 188 getting the ships.
Yes. Oh,
owning
yes.
the ocean.
Just so many resources that just came to him basically free of charge after paying for those ships. it's a really, really big decision maker in who wins these games.
Absolutely. We mentioned earlier on, like, the person who has the most villagers is going to win the game. Those fishing ships count as villagers, and they're like, if you never get harassed, it's just an infinite source of food that he could have just pumped out, 200 more of those things and just sent them out there and had 6,000 food to continue raiding forever. It was very, very powerful.
From the beginning, it felt like Justin and CS were like a step ahead always. Like Justin would have those barracks right next to Jexodus' camp for like maybe a good 5 minutes, just planting in like, hey, look, I'm going to attack you. And then Jexodus would always be trying to rescue Adam.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of gameplay does that? Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, when we get the views of the players, I would see them, Adam and CS188 really kind of talking, and it seemed like they had some really good teamwork going. And I think Adam and Jexodus kind of both got focused on what they were doing and got focused on building those villages, and maybe kind of forgot to, defend quite as much as they should have been. Like we saw with Adam, he had 3 watchtowers, which is great and helpful, but those guys kind of just blew right past it. There was no wall there to stop them in range of those watchtowers, and I think they could have worked together a bit better rather than Jexodus just having to run in and save the day.
We're seeing these guys right now just like sort of discussing, like, here's what happens. This is what I love about this game, is that you can just sort of talk about, like, here's what I was doing, here's what you were doing. And,
we worked together so well doing this.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Just comparing notes, these two teams comparing notes after it was like, you were over there, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think, so one of the decision makers obviously was that huge bonus that CS188 grabbed by just using the fishing ships. Yeah. Another thing was Justin's early rush with those Axemen. It didn't do as much damage, I think, as he hoped. Partially because of the execution, he just didn't have the resources that he needed to really pull it off. Yeah. But I think it got in Jexodus' head a little bit, because Jexodus he was always over there defending Adam, but he could have just right then, because he had been gathering food that whole time, he could have launched a counterattack back there, but he felt under attack. He had all of those archers trained up, and he never really went anywhere with them. And I think if Jexodus had gone back around that horn to the south and done a counterattack, he could have shown Justin some damage.
I'd say, he was obviously getting ready to build up a big army. He had all of those archery ranges, so maybe he was planning to do the same thing. Justin just got there a little bit faster to do the poking and the damaging. And Jexodus, I think, kind of just had to forget about that and go save his teammate.
Felt like an all-out war. But let's check out the bracket update. For the finals, we have Bert and Chaos Mole versus Justin and CS188. What do you guys think? Like, do you think, who do you think will take it?
Oh, it's definitely going to be, it's going to be a tough fight. I think Bert might have the slight advantage being one of the devs, but I don't know. I think Justin and CS188 could have a fighting chance.
Before seeing this last one, I would have said Bert, no question. But CS188 and Justin did a really good job of working together. Oh, yeah. And I think we saw great teamwork in both matches, but I think they might be able to pull off a surprise here. So I'm very excited to see what happens.
I can't wait. Well, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around for this look at the history of Age of Empires. We'll be right back.
PC Gamer magazine ran a cover story called The Year of the RTS, and it had a cover story listing 50 RTS games coming in the next 12 months. Out of that, when we look back in history, only a very small number of games, are ones that people even remember today. We can be proud that we stood up to a lot of competition and exploration in a genre that was exploding at that time.
I don't think there's many people that don't know what Age of Empires is. Everyone knows it, everyone probably played it.
They gave us a plaque. I have it at home for 1 million sales. They were ecstatic. It exceeded expectations at 1 million. At 2 million, I put a little sticker over it and wrote 2 million on it. At 3 million, I wrote 3. And after that one, I just kind of took it off and said, don't need to count anymore. It just kept going.
I remember coming off of the end of Age of Empires 1, which is right when I joined. Coming into the development of Age of Empires 2, it was kind of this moment that you get sometimes in the game industry where you have a team that just finished a game, like the first game in a franchise, and it's kind of, we just have this feeling of like, there's all these things we wished we could have gotten in that game, but we just ran out of time, and so everybody was dying to make the sequel.
And I think the Middle Ages was the best topic of all for a strategy game like that. I mean, men were still basically banging on each other and shooting arrows at relatively short range, and the units were still recognizable. We had these great images of knights and castles, and when you heard the trebuchet go off, it was really bad news.
The online component of being able to play against other human players was finally coming into its own there in the mid-90s.
We had just hit the sweet spot in the balance and the design of that game so that it's just endlessly replayable, especially multiplayer. The kind of scenarios that you encounter when you're playing online, they're just so varied, and there's so much strategy there that you can just kind of keep going. There's still, I think, new strategies being discovered today.
I think some of what happens, and you see this in a lot of franchises, the first one happens somewhat underground and it grows. And as a player, you feel like, oh, I kind of missed the boat on the first one, but it sticks in your head as one of these games that you have to go play. So when the second one comes around, there's a lot more interest in it because the name Age of Empires is out there. You feel like, okay, I'm not going to miss it this time. I'm not going to miss this launch event.
It was a perfect storm of a game. We'd learned so much making Age 1.
Age 2 was the ultimate, kind of the pinnacle for a whole variety of reasons. My favorite review, Computer Gaming World, said, this is the ideal sequel. This is what you want. It's got all the heart and the feeling of that first game that you loved, with just the right amount of novelty and new features to give it new life and actually improve on that base experience.
Between Age 2 and Age 3 was Age of Mythology, which was a real departure.
We really love fantasy, but we also really love history. And then it hit us, that's mythology. That's the perfect topic.
The nice thing about Age of Mythology is it was a quasi-sequel. It was obviously rooted in a lot of the mechanics and ideas of the earlier games, but it gave them a lot more creative license, and I think it really gave them a little bit of a charge. Like, oh, hey, let's go off and learn about Norse mythology and how to work that in the game in an interesting way, and let's create some new mechanics and some things that you could never have in a historically based world.
It was this branch of the franchise, right? It wasn't a mainline Age of Empires title, but so many people responded so strongly to it. It kind of had the most active and vocal community of any of the games we had worked on.
By the time we got to Age 3, the team down at Ensemble was really kind of world-class as a game production team. I think a lot of times you see teams in that third or fourth iteration for them really hit their stride because so much of what it means to just be a team working on a video game together goes away, and it becomes about focusing on the game itself.
I have to say some of the campaigns in Age 3 were one of my favorites in the whole series.
We had physics, cannonballs, hit buildings and broke off little pieces of buildings, and we just tried to amp up the realism.
It was Age coming to North America, which was a new challenge. We added the home city, which kind of added an RPG element to the Age franchise. There was more change, I thought, in Age 3 than the previous Ages when they were trying to add so much more to the franchise, but I was proud of what we were able to accomplish.
Bruce has a fantastic saying, the sun always shines in Age of Empires. Age was always a place where it was idyllic. It was just a place that people could recognize and they could connect with.
What makes Age special is it's easy to pick up and play, but it's really deep. So anybody can jump in and enjoy it, but it takes real mastery to get great at them.
We did a lot of different experiences in those boxes.
Nothing feels, out of place, right? There's this amazing holistic environment that players can kind of get into. There's deep levels of strategy and always new things to explore and to learn. And when you have a nice big community, there's always people influencing how the game is played, how it changes over time, how the meta experience of the game evolves, and that kind of keeps them fresh year after year after year.
Age of Empires 2 was really built around user-made content. Even after 20 years, people are still churning out content and playing new stuff, and there is no limit to that, pretty much.
I was mostly just playing around the scenario editor, loved elephants, loved just screwing around and kind of building these giant battles.
You would get parents that would talk about the Age of Empires as something that they felt was good for the kids, because it actually kicked off at least a question about history. And I think that's maybe as important as really injecting the history lesson right into the game.
What Ensemble Studios did 20 years ago has affected millions and millions of people and gave them some good memories. To me, that's the most important thing, I think.
I love working in the game industry because every once in a while I get to meet my heroes. And for me, the Ensemble guys, the Age guys, they were my heroes.
We were also passionate about Age of Empires and about what we were excited to bring to the world.
They worked long hours, they poured everything they had into this game. And then I think the other thing that was a little surprising was how good everyone was at their jobs, even though most of them had no background in games.
The number of talented people that Ensemble Studios attracted was amazing. I think part of the formula was that we didn't know anything about games. We didn't have any ideas about what was hard, so we just thought everything would be easy, and we moved forward with stuff.
There's still people who play Age of Empires 1 today. If these guys didn't go anywhere in the last 20 years, I don't see them going anywhere in the next 20.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Age of Empires Definitive Edition launch. I am Kate Yeager, and we are live at the Mixer NYC studio at the flagship Microsoft store here in New York City. I've been following along with what you've had to say on Mixer as well as Twitter. Let's take a look at some of my faves. On Mixer, this is user Agent Epic, great name, said, I just came here for the Walala. They didn't do it earlier, this is great. And user CryptoSkate1701 asked, if anyone has played the original AOE on Windows 95, I think the demo may have been included on my Windows 95 install disk. Ah, nostalgia, yes. Remember install disks? I do. And we've got some international shout-outs happening in the chat with user FabCool92 saying, hi all from France. Hello, FabCool. And people are loving the competitive action with user BlazingGaming13 saying, wow, these guys are so good. Incredible. That's them, right back there. And we've got an early prediction for our final match. User Andrea83 says, Bert may be faster, but CS188 has more power. And that's all for now, but remember, use the hashtag Age of Empires and AOEDE to make sure I see your comments on Twitter. For now, let's head back over to Josh to get the final match started. Whoa!
Whoa! Awesome, thank you so much, Kate. All right, now let's get into our final match. And as a reminder, our teams are playing for a pretty sweet prize, these amazing life-size helmets. Our first team is Justin and CS188, and they'll be facing off against Bert and Chaos Mole. As a special treat, they are turning cheats on. And while they're getting set up, Jen and Joe, let's discuss strategies. Now, we saw that CS188 dealt with a lot of ships and owning the ocean. Do you think Bert and Chaos Mole are going to let that happen again?
I mean, cheats kind of throw a whole nother angle into this. I think my strategy, personally, would just be a whole bunch of Big Daddies, just all over the place. I just drive around the map and I win everything.
Yeah,
that would be it.
Absolutely. So I'm not exactly sure what we're going to see here. We have started. We have already begun, and we're already seeing people.
They're already typing.
Hyperdriving, yeah, hyperdriving their guys, getting everybody moving. Look how quick they're moving. They're not even
playing the game. They're just
don't even
typing
have
in
their
chat.
hands on mice right now. This is insanity.
Now, what does cheats change in the game?
What did cheats change?
That was really
That was a hard thing to say.
Better question is what don't they change?
Oh, looks like somebody's already got dragons, so that's good. They don't actually do anything. If you're unfamiliar with that cheat, it's King Arthur, I believe, is the cheat for that.
It's my favorite cheat.
It's mostly just looks thing, but now all your birds are dragons, which really makes you cooler than everybody else.
Let's go down to CS188. I want to see what he is. Are those? I think those are babies.
He's got a Big Daddy. All right, that was my whole strategy. So
he's got babies. He's got villagers, but one of everybody's favorite units is the baby on a tricycle.
Oh my God, he has so many.
Baby Prez. He's just got a bunch of baby Prezes. This is super intense.
This is gonna be so great. And we started in deathmatch mode, so everybody's already in the Iron Age and can basically just go crazy.
It's just gonna be chaos at this point. I mean,
look at this. He's just preparing for war. He's making 1 million houses. He's gonna get 1 million babies. It's gonna be great. No. He's gonna get some super troopers.
E equals MC2 trooper. That's like Photon Man on steroids. It's a Photon Man.
He's zooming in so we can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. It's a Photon Man, but with a nuclear rocket launcher.
Oh my God. Okay. It looks like Justin also has an army of babies on strikes, and Looks like Bert and Chaos Mole are trying to go legit here, and it is not going to go very
Oh
well
yeah,
for
that's
them.
not gonna work. You guys need to.
Maybe
play,
they're just
play
trying
a
to
little bit lower.
give Justin a CS188 a
Oh.
fighting chance.
Oh
Oh,
my God,
God.
decimating.
Okay, all right. Chaos Mole is giving up. He is getting the big daddies
You gotta
going.
get in there. Okay.
Oh,
he
boy.
got an extra chat in there.
Oh boy.
No, you don't need the slash. No slash.
No slash. No slash, Chaos Mole. Someone tell him.
Oh no.
All right, there we go. He's got a big daddy. He's got a big daddy
Big Daddy
going.
just driving
Oh,
around.
but it might not be enough.
Oh,
This is the real micro here.
Oh my
This is the
God.
real micro.
Did you see all of those safe
no.
Oh my God.
All of these
Whose
side
army is that,
turns.
Bert's?
Yeah.
Looks like
Looks
it
like
is.
Bert.
Yeah, Bert has just got an army of chariot archers against all of these photon men. There are so many dead horses. Oh my lord.
So there are a couple of.
Oh my God! Spamming the map.
Looks like he must have turned on steroids, which means that all of your buildings just get instantly built, and he is just shoving them chariot archers out the door. Getting
More
the
Big Daddy.
going.
More Big Daddy.
Justin's like, how are they still winning? I
More
hear that shouted
toddlers.
behind
More
me.
toddlers on tricycles. Some people have noticed that these units, these cheat units, are. Oh my God! Look at these photon men just going through the side archers.
There's just
he's spamming more side
ocean
archers.
of scythe chariot. Oh my God.
Scythe chariots. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, scythe chariots. That's not repetitive at all.
Yeah, scythe chariots. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh wow. CS188.
We can't
his
even
photon
showcase,
men
we're just
are
giggling.
just standing in the midst of a growing pile of chariot archers, while Bert is continuing to just destroy. He's coming into those photon men, just hoping that one of them makes it through. Those photon men are it's like, oh goodness
killing
gracious,
everything.
they just keep on coming. So these units. Some people have noted that they're not up-resed in the definitive edition. They're still
These needed to be exactly the same.
Oh no! Is somebody
Who's
down?
dead
Is
already?
somebody
Oh my
down?
God.
Oh
Is
no!
it Justin?
Oh,
No!
wow, that's GG. Oh my
God.
goodness.
Oh, that was
Who was
fast.
the winner?
It was Bert and Chaos.
Bert
Mole,
and
I'm pretty
Chaos
sure,
Mole.
but there was a lot of chaos
to
happening.
Bert and Chaos
Oh,
Mole. Oh
boy.
my goodness.
Okay,
was
so
intense.
let's try and break what we just saw down for
Yeah.
those who are unfamiliar with cheats like myself. What did we just
You're
see?
like, what is just happening? I just don't
we
understand.
could not even finish a sentence here before something had changed. So when we first did Age of Empires Definitive Edition, when we first announced it, one of the biggest questions we got was, are the cheats
Still
the
there.
cheats still there? Back in the day, in the 90s, you'd have these secret codes you could enter into games. You still have it a little bit, but not like you used to. Like this is like 90s nostalgia at its finest for video games. So people really, really wanted these cheats in there. We had to make sure they were in there and they were right. And as a result, actually, the units haven't been up-res. They're exactly the same units because it's just
It's just
they're
pure nostalgia.
Yeah,
It's pure
just didn't
nostalgia.
want to. Yeah, it's so much fun. It's absolute chaos when you see one happening. It's amazing.
There was an ocean of chariot archers there. There was just oh my God, I don't even know what happened. I don't even
So
know.
how did Bert and Chaos Mole have the upper hand against Justin and CS1?
Well, I mean, they also eventually, I think, did give in and start using the cheats. Chaos Mole, it looked like, was going purely Big Daddy, which, like I said at the beginning, definitely my strategy. I love those machine gun cars. They are or rocket cars. They're pretty great. And then Bert obviously just made so many chariots. And
So
like,
the entire
no matter
map
how
was
many
covered.
laser guns you have, there's really not much you can do after that many chariots. Like, there's just not.
So he did, and it was really interesting. He did an instant build on a ton of those stables. So you
And
can see he just
spammed
had
them.
so many stables on his map. And so as he could just keep those chariot archers, or sorry, those
I know.
the scythe
We
chariots
can't
just
get the names
coming,
right.
coming,
We're
coming.
flustered.
So it was like you have 4 photon men, which are blasting lasers all over the place. They can take on anything, but not forever. They're gonna eventually fall to those chariots.
Have they
And-
given up and started playing again?
yeah, and so we're looking at a replay here. We're seeing Bert just everything's steroids because steroids is the thing that makes your villagers just build instantly.
Yeah, buildings just pop up instantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well.
There's a slight asterisk next to this entire enterprise. If you're asking me, but these Big Daddy cars are faster than anything on the map. So being able to
Kinda
like
zoom in
zoom
there
around, find where the guys are. And
Oh my
Look
God.
at this, it's
Graveyard.
just amazing.
Just so many.
It's amazing. It's like they're just emerging from the ground. I feel like I'm looking at a Gears of War.
Oh God, yeah, with the remnant or
Yeah.
remnants, yeah. I don't know.
Do you guys have a
not mine.
favorite cheat that you guys like to use?
So my favorite one got used early on. It's King Arthur. It does
Yes.
nothing
But the
except
dragons.
it turns all of the birds into dragons. And the dragons don't care about you. They don't fight anything. They don't need anything. They're just flying around. It's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
I particularly like the baby because he's just so destructive, but he's a baby on a tricycle, and that's just such a like that doesn't make any sense. It's fantastic.
And then when that unit is defeated, one of my favorite things is the baby just kind of like tumbles off the tricycle and lands on his butt. He's just like, nah.
Yeah, the first time I
It's
think
very
we were
funny.
playing with that on our stream, I was like, why is there a baby? Oh, it's in the game. Okay, I got it.
Well, that was amazing. I don't even know what happened, but oh my gosh. We're going to take a short break, but stick around because when we get back, we will be crowning our winners.
Visit beautiful, ancient Egypt, history's desert oasis. Relax in the cooling waters of the Nile. Observe the local wildlife. Or explore one of Egypt's many hidden wonders. Book your trip today.
I've toiled. I've struggled. I've risked my life. But in the end, what I've built, it's all worth it. I'm living the dream. And it's time to reap the benefits of my sacrifice. Ah, it. Ayo. Ayo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Age of Empires Definitive Edition launch. I am Josh Soleil alongside Kate Yeager, and we're live from the Mixer NYC studio. I am here with Bert Beekman and Chaos Mole, who just won our tournament and are now sporting some fancy helmets. Guys, that was literal chaos. How did you type those cheats in fast enough? Like, what happened?
Well, we were a bit surprised. Like, I was building up quite normally, and I was having my chariot archers ready, and then just in game with things that did not belong in ancient times. And I was like, okay, we're playing that game.
Yeah, just the cheats came in, and I was like, what is that? Why? I wasn't prepared for that.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been an amazing night. I also want to make sure that we put in... Bert, you had mentioned something earlier to me in rehearsal, and I think it's been pretty obvious that you won this with the help of who?
With the help of a lot of people who have been working behind the scenes at Forgotten Empire. So thanks a lot, guys, for making this game a reality. It's been a crazy year, but I think it has been worth it. So thanks a lot.
And Chaos Mole, do you have to thank Big Daddy? Is that pretty much your...
Definitely Big Daddy, yeah. He was saving the day, and he was also the first cheat who brought me to Age of Empires, so I'm pretty happy with that. It also brought me the win, so GG on that.
And it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
Big Daddy indeed. Well, guys, thank you so much. And of course, this has been an amazing night. And remember, Age of Empires Definitive Edition is available for download right now in the Microsoft Store on Windows 10. May already be available where you are, because that's what happens every midnight. But anyway, it's midnight tonight. And if you're here with us on the East Coast, it's coming up to it very close. Oh, wait, or is it? Is it already midnight? No, I'm over. I can't read watches. Don't worry about it. But a big thanks to the Mixer NYC studio and the flagship Microsoft Store and all the Mixer partners and the game devs who joined us here today. And of course, thank you for watching. Guys, have a great night. YOLO!
Whoa!